Today's reading is from John chapter 12. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." When the great crowd of the Jews learned that he was there, they came not only because of Jesus, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests planned to put Lazarus to death as well, since it was on account of him that many of the Jews were deserting and were believing in Jesus. The first 3 days of Holy Week have no grand liturgical action that traditionally accompanies them. Although churches often have extra services to mark these days, we in a sense just carry on as normal. After the excitement of Palm Sunday, we have a few days to get ready for the events of Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Day. What we are given is 3 gospel accounts, 3 incredibly rich episodes from Jesus' life, and year after year they bear our turning to them again. They bear reflecting on as we prepare to celebrate the holy mysteries to come. In this episode, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus comes to the home of Lazarus, and Lazarus' sister Mary anoints Jesus with a huge quantity of expensive perfume and wipes his feet with her hair. It may seem an extravagant gesture, and of course it is, but we must remember that it is this Jesus who raised the brother of this Mary from the dead. It is hard to fathom the depth of gratitude she must feel towards him. He had resurrected her brother. A pound of pure nard might have sounded a lot to those who saw it, but to her it was not nearly enough. Mary's action, while seeming spontaneous, was a response. Mary loved Jesus because he had first loved her. Mary's worship is not on her own initiative. It reflects what Jesus did for her. So to our prayer, our worship is only ever a response, a reply, a return of the great generosity which God has shown to us. Contrast this with Judas, who thought the perfume wasteful. He wanted to do a good thing for the poor instead, and who could argue with that? But see, for him it is the poor in general the money could be spent on. He is not responding to need out of compassion. He is not acting out of love. The poor are just a problem to be sorted, not people to be loved. This is charity as tax write-off, publicity, conscience soothing, not loving service. Mary's act is quite different. Personal, connected, real. When Mary did what she did, we are told that the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. This verse often strikes me, and I've spoken about it before, but what catches me this year, the first that I can remember celebrating Holy Week not in church but at home, is that it is a house that is filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Through Holy Week we are presented in the Gospels of the day with a series of images and mysteries and stories that set out the heart of our faith. Our task is simply to respond to them in whatever way we can. Like Mary, our response will be inadequate, whether we make it in a grand cathedral as much as in the corner of a living room. But make it we must. And this year it is not the church building, but our houses that will be filled with the fragrance. Our houses that will be hallowed. our homes which will become his home. Then, as the psalmist says, we shall be filled with the abundance of his house, for we shall drink from the river of his delights. For in him is the well of life, and in his light shall we see light. Amen.